Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I've got a terrific guest. This is a really energetic and easy to talk to woman that I know you'll like, and she provides a service. She's a business owner, an entrepreneur, and she provides a service that all of us need at one point in our life, and that is title work, auto title. So when you buy a car, sell a car, and she does much more, and we'll ask her about that. But then the person you need to talk to is Dawn Chiasson at Tula Title, my neighbor right down Hickory Street. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Hey, Parker. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for being here. And I want to kick things off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I am a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and a farmer.
And a farmer? Wow, I wasn't expecting that, Zinger.
Yeah, I'm a farmer.
That's cool. What do you farm?
We have farm-to-table beef and horses.
Oh, that's cool. You know, my dad, for years, everybody knows Dad is the sheriff. He served as our sheriff for 24 years, retired about 20 years ago. But what most folks didn't know was that he had a beef farm himself, not farm to table. We were lucky if they made it off the farm. But yeah, that was always his side deal. So, you know, he didn't get much work out of his 4 lazy sons. But that's a really neat business.
Yeah.
Well, hope to ask you about all of that. You know, what I like seeing there is you work in title work, right? And what I guess I heard in your first answer there is you carry many titles, right? Personal ones, wife, mom, grandmother, you know, professional ones, owner, notary, but also farmer. That was one I wasn't expecting. So why don't we start with kind of, you know, your origin story, if you will. Like you sound like a superhero wearing all those titles. Give us your superhero origin story. Where are you from? And maybe we'll chat a bit about your childhood.
Sure. So I was born and raised in New Orleans, and I got married young. I was a 20-year-old, got married, and my husband and I moved south to his area in Lafourche Parish. We lived there briefly. And then we moved.
Are we talking Cutoff or what part of Lafourche?
Raceland.
Oh, Raceland. All right.
Raceland. Yeah.
Okay.
And so in the mid 80s, which you're not old enough to remember the mid 80s, but we had a nice crash.
No, that was my prime. Mid 80s, I was just coming into double digits. Yeah, no, that was the good time.
Yeah. So anyway, we moved to North Tangi Parish, Kentwood area, and we dairy farmed for about 10 years.
Oh, wow. Now, what little I know about dairy farming is that it's a hard life. I had friends growing up whose family were dairy farmers, and I learned pretty quick to shy away from spending the night at their house because you might be asked to work, and it was an early call.
Oh, yeah, 4 a.m., 4 p.m.
Yeah, what was that like?
24/7, 365. Yep.
Yeah, so lots of work. So what does a dairy farmer do? Because I think a lot of people here now, Ponchatoula, our whole surrounding area, it's blown up, tons of people, but very little that kind of remember the good old days. I mean, we may pass Ernst Dairy, you know, on Sisters Road and look at it and be curious, but very few probably have a feel for that hard life. So if you would, give us a day in the life of a dairy farmer from that 4 a.m. call to the end.
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I worked in a law firm, and my husband was our dairy farmer. My husband was a farmhand, but I did milk cows briefly. Yeah, 4 a.m. you go out there and you pour feed, and the cattle come in. You got milk. Fortunately, we had milk tanks and milk production, but it's hard. It's a lot of work.
So does your husband Blake still jump out of bed early, you know, or after doing that all those years? Or
Yep, he's an early riser. Still an early riser.
You mentioned you got married, you know, you met young at 19, married at 20. You know, here we are. I won't say how many years later. I don't give away your age, but let's just say we've got a successful marriage there that results in kids, grandkids, and decades of happiness. Tell us, you know, if you don't mind, about that love story. How'd y'all come together, and maybe advice for any potential newlyweds out there?
So we met through mutual people. And ironically enough, I tell this to people all the time, we didn't realize it, but when we were 5, we actually took swimming lessons together. Didn't discover that till after we were married. So I just think we were destined to be together. And he's easy to live with, and I'm, you know, gotta have both sides. So he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I love hearing that, because I take my boys to swim lessons over in Covington every year. My wife and I do. And there have been so many cute little girls in that pool. We're probably in like year 6 or 7 with Coach Bill Babcock. So the thought that maybe one day would be their bride, like you guys, makes my heart happy. But that's really cool. That's a neat story. You must have, if not love at first sight, I mean, you must have kind of known pretty early, to be married that quickly, together that long. I mean,
I did. He threw my phone number away. That's a true story.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what you're now here in the heart of Ponchatoula. Your business is, let's see, if I'm the 200 block of East Hickory, you must be on the 100 block of West Hickory, right?
Yep.
You're on the same block as City Hall, same side of the street, obviously.
Yep.
What's it like operating kind of in the middle of a Mayberry type town versus all those years working in law firms and big businesses down in New Orleans? Can you give us kind of a comparison in the way they differ?
The train. We don't have trains in downtown New Orleans.
Does your building shake? Because this one sure does.
A little bit, yeah. Twice a day. Yeah.
That's great.
I think, I've been in Ponchatoula since, living in Ponchatoula since 2005. And I just think Ponchatoula is so adorable. It's quaint. It's got art and antique, and just the people of Ponchatoula are so family oriented and have good values. And I just love where my office is, because a lot of times I just get people who are walking along the street and they stick their nose in and they say, "Hey, how y'all doing today? I hope you have a good day." And you don't get that in New Orleans.
Yeah, you've got a great spot. I serve, not only did I grow up 2 blocks from your office and now work 1 block, 2 blocks, whatever it is, but I served on the Port Commission for years, which is, if not your next door neighbor.
It is my neighbor. Yep.
And Miss Helen, who was just such a sweet lady, she's now retired, but
she's
retired, was the mainstay of your block. And now Pat, super nice guy too. They run the Port. But, it's a great place to be. And it's really neat that you found your way there after probably being in high rises and places like that downtown. Yep. If you don't mind, Dawn, I want to share some love you're getting from your friends here. So Trisha Nicholas, who's a friend of the show and yours, I want to say a quick shout out to Trisha, if you don't mind.
Yep.
She is not only one of the sweetest ladies. I mean, it's, the lady at the sweet shop is really sweet.
That's a pun.
You're right. I know it's probably a bad pun, but it's true. But what I want to do is say she's so generous. I have this little Bikes for Kids program where we give kids bikes in the summer.
That's a great program.
Thank you. This summer we've doubled our goal, and we're going to give away 50 bikes. And Trisha, with no hesitation, stepped up. And she probably, doesn't want me to share this, but I'm going to do it because she deserves the credit. She steps up and says, "I'm going to give all 50 kids a gift certificate to my sweet shop." She's done this before, of course, with much smaller groups when we gave away fewer bikes. But she's always there for our community. The kids love her. My kids are fortunate to know her before she even opened it up on her place when she was over at Strawberry Castle Preschool. And just one of the finest people in town. So if you have anything to say to Trisha, please do. I'm sorry to step on your interview, but I want to give her some props while we can.
Yeah, no problem. I do have something wonderful to say about Trisha. She's actually one of the very first people. I went to a chamber after hours meeting, and she was one of the first people who came up and introduced herself to me. And I see her around town, and she's just, if I can say so without stepping on anybody's toes, she's almost like, the face and ambassador for our town.
You're right. That's a perfect word, ambassador. She is like the ambassador for the town. And she's also a person full of bright ideas. I think of the kids parade at Strawberry Festival time. And she's not just somebody who comes back with a good idea and says, "Hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't you go do this?" She puts up her own blood, sweat, tears, money, etc., to make it happen. So I'm big fans of her and Skirley. And like you, they're a good example of how people can come from out of town and add to the rich. Ponchatoula is known for being sometimes isolated and focused on the families like mine that have been here since the 1800s. And sometimes, not always, too little credit is gone to folks that come north from places like New Orleans or, Lafourche Parish or, the river parishes like she did. So
there's 2 kinds of people. You either come here or you're from here. And
right. That's so true. That's so true.
So I came here a long time ago, but you still get that warmth. And so even though I'm not a founder of Ponchatoula, and Trisha's not a founder of Ponchatoula, you get welcome, because I go back to the family, and the values of our town is so warm, and it's a wonderful place to live, work, and raise your family.
And look, coming from somebody whose parents came here, I think great grandparents came here in like the 1890s. All of us are come here at some point, right? Unless you're Choctaw, I don't think your family was born on the bed of the Tangipahoa River. So it's just kind of a matter of when we were fortunate
when you came here, exactly,
to stumble into town. But Jessica Douglas is somebody else who's giving you some claps here.
So Jessica is my biggest cheerleader. We love Jessica. She's one of our newer employees. We recently hired Jessica this year, and she is learning the ropes of doing motor vehicle titles. And she's a fabulous spokesperson. She's a big cheerleader. So we love
Jessica, thanks for watching. This is great to have her taking part. And I want to let other folks know, if you're watching live, we have the ability, as you can tell, to put your comment up on the screen. So if you want to say something nice, as these wonderful ladies have done, chime in, and I'll share that comment with Dawn. Or if you have a question, for me, for her, we'll do our best to answer it. But that's something that's kind of fun during the show. If we get a live comment, just know that we're able. And wow, Trisha's got a good one here. And I'll paraphrase here, because what y'all may not know is Dawn's watching on a very small screen. I won't ask her to read these. Her eyes are probably much better than mine, but she says Dawn is amazing, and she stepped forward when Trisha and them needed new blood for the Chamber of Commerce, and you've gotten all their business because you explain and help with whatever is needed. So that's a ringing endorsement, and Trisha, thanks for sharing that. When people do good work for our community, like Dawn has done, they deserve credit. Don't always get it. So that's pretty cool. And then Jessica says, thank you, Mrs. Dawn. She's very grateful to you. So that's really neat. I've got a comment here, and forgive me, this is probably a limitation of our technology, but I can't see, our show simulcasts on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And most of our comments typically come from Facebook. But as you may be able to see here, when they come from LinkedIn, I don't get a profile picture or even a name. So this just says LinkedIn user. So to the commenter, forgive me for not being able to personally respond here. But it says that you need to meet Dawn, and thanks for loving our town. So I'll follow up on LinkedIn later, figure out who you are, try to get that put in the comments here. If you want to comment below and give us your name, that would be helpful too. But don't feel like you need to. But thanks everybody who's watching live. We appreciate it. I'm here with Dawn Chiasson, owner and notary at Tula Title. Excuse me, I got a little tongue tied there. And what I want to do is we're going to ask her about her business in a bit, the services they provide, etc. But we've been talking about her life coming up, and I guess what I want to ask now, Dawn, is tell us a little bit about your career that prepared you to go into notarial services and auto title. Right? I know from talking to you off screen, this isn't your first rodeo. You weren't just hanging out on your husband's dairy farm one day and saying, hey, why don't we try this? Tell the folks where you've been, what you learned, and how you got here.
Absolutely. So I started my career as, ironically enough, Parker, and I told you that, as a personal injury paralegal.
Right.
And
I can really use you. Unfortunately, I'm probably just 20 years too late to meet you, right?
Yeah, not doing personal injury paralegal work any longer. But I will tell you a funny story, which y'all probably wouldn't understand this, but an attorney that I worked for, my very first personal injury attorney, I start working for him, and he walks in my office one day and he hands me a file and he says, I need a petition and all discovery documents by the end of the day.
By the end of the day?
Whoa. Well, like, A, I don't know what a petition is. B, I don't know what discovery documents are. And then when I figured it out, by the end of the day, it's unheard of.
Yeah, like, of course, yeah.
Are you crazy?
Let's put it this way. It can't be done right by then, right? Any petition discovery you'd file by then would be inadequate. But it's funny. That reminds me of a story. I'm one of 4 boys. 3 of us became attorneys. All went to LSU Law School. And when my baby brother, my youngest, was in school, I was in my last year of law school. And long story short, he got a job, as basically a runner with a very good lawyer in Baton Rouge. And long story short, he started coming to me in my office at the law review in the law school with questions about legal research. And, so he said, I got this assignment at work and it was high end stuff. And I said, man, who's asking a freshman in college to do that? Turned out his boss thought he was a law student, not an 18-year-old college freshman.
That's funny.
It's like sometimes these lawyers get so busy, they don't stop, think who they're asking and what they're asking them to do. So that's a believable story. I want to circle back real quick, and we're going to get back to your legal career in a bit. But we have here figured out the mystery. Remember this LinkedIn user whose comment I'm sharing? It's our friend Lauren Family. So Lauren, like Dawn, has done a ton for the community through the chamber, former chamber president, and much more. Wonderful masseuse. My wife Brandy could just speak for hours about the great work she's done on her back and body. But just a wonderful person that I've kind of grown up, if you will. We're near each other in age. She may not appreciate me saying that. Sorry, I won't give them our actual age, Lauren. But yeah, just a great person. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for being what I think is our first LinkedIn comment. We've done 100+ shows. Maybe it's happened, but I can't remember that. So thank you. And speaking of lovely ladies, Miss Patricia Vicknair, Miss Pat, one of the best women in Ponchatoula. She says she loves Tula Title, that you, Dawn, and your team, you're great people and very nice. So that's got to be rewarding to hear something like that.
Yes,
huh?
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Pat.
What do they say, Miss Pat? It takes one to know one.
Good
And I got to shout out to Miss Pat's husband, Mr. Robbie, who did such a great job leading my 7-year-old boy and a big group of kids from First Baptist Church in an overnight camp out that we did recently out in Rosaryville. Help these kiddos catch fish, paddle canoes, plant trees, shoot bows and arrows, ride horses, you name it.
Awesome.
Just wonderful people. So thank you, Miss Pat. I hope you're doing well today. So circling back to you, Dawn.
Yeah.
You mentioned you started your career legal at a personal injury firm.
Yep.
But you moved on from there. So tell us about what came next.
So what came next was I had not gone to college to do paralegal work. And so that's why I brought the paperwork up. I didn't know what I was doing. I had to go find a file that had the same kind of case. And so decided to go to school to go get my degree. And the goal was to eventually go to law school. But I didn't make it to law school, and that's not anything to be sad about. God had a plan for me, and I'm on the path. And that was my goal. That wasn't God's plan. But I did go to college. I got a degree in paralegal studies, and ironically, I did so much English extra classes that I also have a minor in English. So that was pretty crazy. But I love reading. I love writing, and
Well, tell us about that. What do you like to read? What genre? Do you do westerns, mysteries? What are you into?
I actually love murder mysteries.
Oh,
cool. Patricia Cornwell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I asked because I love to read myself, and like you probably, I read a ton of different things. But like you like that genre, I'm into westerns. Louis L'Amour, one of my favorite friends and clients of all time, the late Miss Beauty Gildner. Gave me this beautiful set of books, and my dad and I love to read those.
Nice.
Things like Lonesome Dove, man, just can't get enough of that stuff. So
right.
So you love to read. You go back to school. You get your paralegals.
Get my paralegal degree.
Do you stick with the personal injury firm for a while?
Nope. I decided to go into environmental law.
Okay.
And I had moved back. I had moved back south. I didn't go back to New Orleans, but we moved here. We moved to St. Tammany at the time, and I worked in New Orleans, and I went to work for an environmental defense firm, and that was very interesting work for me. But took all of my education that I learned doing all the research, and of course that was the advent, believe that or not, of the internet. Back then we didn't have an internet like we now. Now you had to pay for it and use per minutes like pre-cell phone era, but it was very interesting. That was the advent of online research. Westlaw was in its infancy, but interesting.
I started working for law firms just as a runner, working my way through college in the mid and late 90s. And so the internet's on the scene, but not in the legal research like you said. I mean, I remember Westlaw would send you the CD-ROM discs to do research on. And then by the time I got to law school, they were moving online, but they were making us learn both. And my class was the last class to have to learn the books for legal research as
Do
well.
the rainbow?
Yeah. And which we really resented, because we're like, clearly they're leaving this behind. Otherwise, people, next year doesn't have to do it. They announced that,
right.
like, why? But that the wisdom of the administration. I now teach at LSU Law School, so I'm probably the guy creating policies like that, at least in my classroom. So I should probably be less critical of the guys who taught me. But yeah, so you're right. That was an interesting time for legal research, for the practice of law. So you saw all these computer automation efficiencies come in from word processing. My mom was a legal secretary. I won't give away the years. She'd get real mad at me, but she talks about using things like carbon paper, typewriters. That's all way before your time. But the time period you're talking about, man, things get lightning fast, right? It goes from no internet to a lot of information.
Yeah, to everything at your fingertips, and lightning fast. So I learned, like I just told you, learning to do research on a rainbow wheel, to literally just typing a search query into Westlaw and finding all of these cases. So it's a much different way of research and much faster. And I just can't even tell you countless briefs that I wrote for the group of attorneys that I worked for. And you and I talked about this. We probably crossed paths because they practiced in the Eastern District.
I certainly, I when I was clerking for Judge Duvall in the Eastern District, it's a virtual certainty that your work crossed my desk and his.
I'm sure.
Because
I
your
probably
firm
stood
is
in your
very
office
prominent.
going, take this to Judge Duvall.
Those were the good old days in many ways.
Yep.
I enjoyed it down there. And you're from New Orleans, so you appreciate this better than most. It is such a wonderful place to live in, whether you're able to do it just for a brief time like me. For me, it's 4 years of college, 1 year of clerking in the courts, 5 years total, and I'm done. For you, growing up there much longer. But, the memories stick with you a lifetime, and they just come back so quick. Sparky Wells and I and Will Richardson, my best friend for life and Tulane roommate, we went to lunch last week with some folks from the Tulane athletic department. We're trying to get Coach Willie Fritz up here to talk to the Ponchatoula Rotary after the big, historically great season. And, it's just stories come back like that, and you can smell the po' boys at this joint in your head and remember the sights. When you think of New Orleans and the nostalgia of your childhood there and you're working there in your early life, what do you think back fondly? Like, what comes to mind?
So you're really going to date me here, but we used to drive up to the French Market where Cafe Du Monde was at the point. It's no longer there. You used to be able to get your beignets in your car at the front of the French Market. That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Man, but what a luxury to be able to essentially drive through and get that without fighting the tourists and the parking and all the nonsense we do now. That's the one tough part, and I'm sure it happens anywhere, Paris, New Orleans, any of the great cities of the world. But sadly, the best spots become tourist traps eventually. And the information age has kind of put that problem on steroids, One good blog article about who's got the best whatever can ruin it. We got another good comment here that I want to share. Ryan Griffin. Ryan's a super nice guy that I served on the board, the TARC board with, and he says good evening and how you doing, Ryan? Thank you for tuning in, man. It's good to see you.
Awesome.
So I've asked you a lot about the good old days. We talked about your career coming up. Now I want to ask about your business. So Tula Title, I know that you guys were voted best in the parish, right? In the best of Tangi. So
yes,
congratulations on that award. I know how proud I've been in the years I've been blessed to win that. So, long story short, tell us what you do. Maybe, from the big picture, 30,000 foot view, and then we'll dial in maybe on some of the specifics of things that y'all handle, the services you provide.
So Tula Title is an auto title bureau. We have a contract with the Department of Motor Vehicles for the state of Louisiana to handle all of your title transactions for your vehicle. If you sell a vehicle, if you buy a vehicle, or you need your license plate renewed. We are new with that contract, so the services we offer are limited. We're not a full service DMV as of yet, but that's our goal.
Oh, cool. So how does that process work? So you mentioned you're not there yet. Sounds like you do some DMV-like tasks, right? But how does that work? If that's your goal, how do you get from where you are to that goal?
So I tell people the state once you, just like a child, you have to crawl before you can walk.
Right.
And so we just started walking. We're 2 years in. We just got confirmation from the state that our contract was renewed for another 2 years. So we'll be neighbors for another 2 years at least. It's a 2-year contract. We have to renew every 2 years.
Okay.
When the contract renews, the state will review what we've done, and then we can apply for more services.
Yes.
And then get reviewed. And if they approve, then they'll give us more services.
Okay. Well, I love having you there for selfish reasons, among others. And one is this. I think any law firm, no matter what you do, and my firm is a specialty firm. We're kind of a one-trick pony. We only do specific kinds of personal injury. You know, it's big truck wrecks, car wrecks, very little else. But what happens is when people need a car title transfer, they just think lawyer, they must have a notary. Folks come in, they walk in and they say, hey, here's this, title. I want to sell my brother this car, whatever. Well, I don't know how to do that, candidly, right? It's just not what I do. And so, in the old days, you had to kind of scratch your head, or where do they go? Around here, it's always frustrating. You got to go to Hammond for so many things. So to have somebody doing it so well, literally a block or two away, has been a godsend for my little firm, but also for the town. So first and foremost, thank you. Another thing I want to ask you about is specifically notary services. But before we get into the exact notary services you provide, I want to ask you to tell us about the notary process, because it's very difficult to become a notary public. All right.
Yes.
And I think, one thing, like us lawyers, we are almost automatically made notaries.
Yep.
You can botch the paperwork and not become a notary when you become an attorney. I worked with a very good lawyer who's, kind of blamed his secretary, sadly, on that, but that happened. I've seen, but by and large, we don't have to take the notary exam. We don't have to learn all this. So what you get, and I'm a good example, is somebody who can have a notary stamp, a notary license, but not really know the notary laws like they should. But you guys who become notaries without becoming attorneys, y'all really learn it. I know some really smart people, Tulane graduates, etc., that could not or did not pass the notary exam. Judge Kuhn, speaking of neighbors, my neighbor, over there residentially across town, taught the course at Southeastern for years. But could you tell us about what that process was like? Because I don't think most folks out there understand how grueling it is to become a notary.
Well, I appreciate that you recognize that, because it is a grueling process. And I tell people I took the exam 4 times before I passed it. And the 4th
Which is
time,
not uncommon. That is, it's like the CPA exam. That's not a mark of shame. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes.
And unlike the CPA exam, you can't pass this part and then redo something else. It's a whole in globo. You have to do the whole thing all over again. So the 4th time that I made the attempt, I went and took a class. The first 3 times, I just figured, I'm a paralegal, I'll pass it, no problem. That's not the case. So I took a class and I studied for 6 months, and then I sat and took a 4-hour exam. And this is again, I'm talking about pre-computers, but I wrote a whole closing. I did an entire real estate closing, property description, mortgage documents, paraphed it, the whole bit by hand with a pen and paper.
That sounds painful. Well, you're talking to a gray-beard lawyer, which means I took the bar exam by hand. So, for us, it was that, thankfully, it was broken up into a few parts per day, but 8 hours of writing, 3 days over the course of a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I can tell you, I feel your pain. That is no fun. Tell us about the different things notaries do, and then we can get specifically into the notary services that you most routinely provide at Tula Title.
So again, from a bird's eye view, I tell people this all the time. A notary in Louisiana has very broad powers. I can't give you legal advice and I can't go to court with you, but I can pretty much draft any other document that you need, not giving you legal advice. So if you need a power of attorney, you need a will, you need a bill of sale, active donation, heirship affidavit, we can do all of those things. And
because you don't get bogged down in legal advice and the analysis that goes with that and the liability that goes with that and the insurance that goes with that, presumably you can provide those documents you mentioned much more affordably than law offices can. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Yes. And if it gets deep and it gets difficult, then I have a handful of attorneys who I have communicated with, and just like you send title work to me, I send those deep. When they go deep, I can't go with them, so I have to refer you out. So, and I'm real clear about that, because I never want to do unauthorized practice of law.
Yeah, of course. So just like I get the thing I get probably the most calls on that I don't do, which is no surprise to anyone, is family law, right? Half of all marriages end in divorce, and lots of people are fighting about kids that never got married in the first place. Every family at its periphery somewhere needs a family lawyer, but I don't do that. I didn't even take the course in law school. So my whole team's been trained. Problem A, call Janelle. Problem B, call Ernie. You know, we've identified these good lawyers in town and elsewhere. And it sounds like you've done the same thing, right?
I send my stuff to Janelle if it's that. I send it up to Jennifer if it's something else.
All good lawyer. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that's neat. Got another great comment here coming in. Lauren Bonvillian. Hope I said that right, Lauren. Sends you much love and is happy to see everything going so well. And she definitely misses all of our days in the office in the beginning. So was she with your company when y'all started?
Yeah. So Lauren was my very first reception. She's also a very good friend's granddaughter. So we're close to Lauren, but she was my very first employee, if you will.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, it looks like she's holding a diploma and wearing a hat and tassel in that Facebook photo. So congratulations on that graduation, Lauren. Whatever you studied, it looks like you've crossed the finish line. No small achievement. We've got graduations on the brain here. My younger boy is graduating from preschool tomorrow at Strawberry Castle. So that's
good place.
Oh yeah, we love it over there. The Miltons are the family that owns it, just as good as it gets. I've been begging to get them on the show, and I'm never going to give up. One of these days, I'm going to catch them in a moment of weakness and get them to brave the firing squad like you have, Dawn. Well, what's a day in the life like at Tula Title? You know, if we think about when you get there in the morning, open the doors, what can you reason? I don't know. There's always some crazy thing that's out of the blue, but what can you reasonably, expect, to happen in the course of a day?
So, you need to sell your car, and you have a buyer. Buyer can't come into town until Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so we can do several things to facilitate that transaction, because you're gone out of town Saturday. So we have the ability to do remote online notary services. Yes,
please tell us about that, because it seems to me like folks don't know that Louisiana now allows for that in some circumstances.
February of 21, the state legislature passed that remote online notary. It stems from, just like your program, from COVID, when you couldn't do face-to-face notaries. But it's the most amazing thing, and I'm so excited that I was on the forefront of becoming a remote online notary. I have notarized stuff for people as far as China. They've been in Europe at a party. I notarized something. The lady was in full formal wear and that's sitting cool. in a I don't even know what room she snuck off to with her phone to do. She needed to sign something, but that gives us the ability to get a power of attorney for someone who can't be here personally to do the transaction. Mm-hmm. So I think that's my favorite thing to do, and I know that sounds so silly, but it's so tech savvy nowadays. Yeah. The combination between a Zoom meeting, we're on a Zoom call.
Yeah, walk us through how that would work. So folks, because I know some people get anxiety. For me, I've learned in recent years, some folks have anxiety about coming into the office, and they prefer to do everything from their couch. And they can do almost everything in a case from their couch, except
you can do it from your cell phone as well. So
but others I think are more scared of the tech, but it's not as bad as they think, right? You can
it's not. So Louisiana is one of the very few. Yeah. I'm sorry, I overtalked.
No, you go ahead. Please continue.
So Louisiana is one of the very few states, but we do biometric screening. So instead of KBA, which is knowledge-based authentication, where you have to answer 4 out of 5 questions, like, out of these 5 addresses, which one have you lived out of? Out of these 5 cars, which one have you owned? Where do you have a mortgage at? One of these 5 banks. If you miss 2 questions, I can't do the notary with you. So biometric screening is you take a photo of your driver's license and you take a selfie, and the computer does a combination and verifies that person. Because I know Parker Layrisson, no problem. I can say, yeah, that's Parker, but I may not know your little brother. I don't know your little brother. I hadn't met him.
you know what's got me giggling here? I don't know if you know anyone in your life when they take their photo at the DMV, they get all gussied up, right? It's like they're going to the prom, the makeup, the hair, etc. They must have a good algorithm to make sure the difference between that Saturday morning hungover selfie and the fancy
Must have, but the computer
cool.
does all of that. So my witness has to upload both of those pictures. Once we go through biometric screening, either the person has provided a document, but in the power of attorney situation, I have those in my office.
Right.
I've created it, prepared it, and it goes on the screen in a PDF document. And we share screens while we're in Zoom, so I can watch them pull their email up, and I can watch them sign it electronically. It comes back to me. I share my screen. They watch me sign it. They watch me put my seal on it. We're all said and done. At the end of the day, you have 2 pages now. You have your signed document, and then there's an audit page that shows that was an electronic notary. In 10 minutes, we're done.
So, and all of that, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you can do from anywhere you have an internet connection. All you need is a cell phone, and it's not going to be hard. You're not going to have to download 49 new apps and create a bunch of passwords that it sounds like it's not only secure, but it's easy for the consumer. Correct. Is that right?
I notarized a captain on a tugboat last week. He's just driving on his tugboat.
That's cool. Wow, that's a cool story. I love it. Well, another great comment. Well, you sure have a lot of fans. Judy Johnson says, "Look at you. She's so proud of you, and she knows your mom and dad would be too. God bless." Wow, Judy, that's powerful. Well, let me ask you this. She mentioned your mom and dad. Influences in our life. We're all, influenced by people. Sometimes in the house, like a parent. Sometimes people we work for, people we encounter in life, a spouse, etc. When you think back over the course of your life, from that little girl in New Orleans to this super successful, vibrant businesswoman that you are today, who have been the people that have helped you get there and influenced you? Who comes to mind when you think about that?
So 2 people come to mind. First is my maternal grandfather. He was a very young man and had to drop out of school. So he didn't graduate from high school. He had to take care of his family, but he worked really, really hard his whole life. And when I was probably in high school, he was getting his GED and became an electrician for the city of New Orleans. So his work ethic and his just dedication to his family and to us, because he had a garden in his backyard, which I used to go pick my radishes and eat with my grandfather. So I think a lot of what I watched him, and as a child, watching your grandfather get an education from high school when you're almost about to do it yourself is a huge accomplishment. So that's one. And that's brave. The second person is a lady who has since passed away, but she was an attorney and raising 2 small children and went back to school because she had a very difficult marriage. And she was an English teacher. And when I met her, she had just graduated from law school and she was 40 years old. And I was amazed that she went back after, because back then we always thought, oh, you graduate from high school, you go to college. If you don't, it's done. You can't do it anymore. Yeah. And that was the mentality, unfortunately. And the fact that she did it and became a successful, she actually became a judge. And then she got breast cancer and passed away. But she was a huge influence in my life as far as watching a woman do successful things. My mom was successful as well. She just didn't go to college, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying. But
it also wasn't the custom so much with women in that era. That's
correct?
Yeah. So that that reminds me. Speaking of breast cancer patients that went back to school around that age that we admire, my mom did the same thing. My mom, who's a breast cancer survivor, when my brothers and I were, getting old enough that we could kind of take care of ourselves in the sense that we could make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or some Easy Mac.
Couldn't make a roux, huh?
Yeah, right. She had gone to college for 2 years and then left to become a legal secretary. She's from a very poor family and a single mother who bravely left a bad marriage to support all these kids on her own in a time when the church and the community were not very supportive of that. But she went back to school, and ironically, this morning at breakfast or coffee, I went by to see my mom and dad, and she was telling me that the thing she's most proud of in her life are her 4 sons and her like B plus or whatever she got in calculus when she returned to school, because she foolishly took calculus the first semester back after 20 something years.
Oh, goodness.
But she did. She went back to school at Southeastern. She not only graduated, but she went and got her master's degree in business.
That's
and
awesome.
Became a banker and a little small business owner. So, yeah, I mean, that sounds like we've witnessed kind of similarly compelling stories there.
Yep.
And I can see what you mean in that woman being such an inspiration, because I know my mom, in similar circumstances, was to me. Well, you clearly love what you do, Dawn. What do you love about it? I mean, it seems like you bring a smile into your office. You bring a smile into this interview talking about it. When you think about what you love about Tula Title and the business you perform, what is it?
So I'm very blessed to have Tula Title. I have an immense surrounded support system in my world. And like I said, a husband of many years, a very successful son, daughter-in-law. All of those people support my thought process of God, family, and then work. And so when I go to work every day, it's about serving the community. Yes, I do have to make money to keep the lights on, but I have a great support system. My staff, which we saw Jessica, and I have another notary, Shane, who works for me. And I want people to come in my office and get treated like I want to be treated if I were going to do the same transaction at another location.
Yeah. And what I love about the little team you've put together there is that it's not just the people that, work there today. It's the people that used to work there. What we're seeing here is you must have treated them right if they stuck around to watch this show and say nice things. And that's really impressive. I think that speaks to you and your character. I promised I would get you out of here at a decent hour. I know you have ball games. Those athletic grandsons of yours are playing over, presumably at Pard or wherever. But so that I can get you back to Mr. Blake and to those grandkids and everybody else, let me ask you, before we go, if you could give yourself advice at a younger age, knowing what you know now, and how to succeed in life and how to succeed in business, etc., what would you tell yourself?
I would tell younger Dawn to do this sooner. I would say, don't be afraid to bite the bullet and jump in with both feet, because that was the biggest thing that held me back from owning my own business, was fear.
Yeah.
And you don't even be scared.
Great advice. And would you agree that there's never a perfect time? It's like having kids or getting married. You're never rich enough, or tomorrow is always going to seem better and easier, etc. But at some point, just like getting in that pool, that first jump is cold. You got to get through it, right? I mean, do you agree?
You just have to do it, and you just have to have faith that the plan that you're putting in motion is the same plan that God has for you. And if that's the case, then it'll be successful. If that's not the right plan, then you redirect and do something else that does it better. So I'm just blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be in Ponchatoula, and I thank you for having me, because I love this town. And I did have one more comment. I'm gonna do a parallel between New Orleans.
As much time as you like. Yeah.
I'm gonna do a comparison between Ponchatoula and New Orleans, because I'm gonna give a shout out. When I lived in New Orleans, and I didn't get that in some other cities, we used to be able to take a lunch break and walk to lunch. We can do that here in Ponchatoula, because we have some great restaurants in downtown Ponchatoula.
Amen.
So
we really do.
Lunch.
As you can tell by looking at me, we eat well in this town. No, you're absolutely right. I want to share a few more comments here, because I have a lot of friends. Shelly Wilcox is so proud of you and calls you a dear friend. And Shelly, that's really kind of you. And Lydia Donahue says that she's so happy for you. I guess it's Alvin. Alvin must be doing an Eddie Layrisson here, and by that I mean posting to his wife's account. Thank you for doing that. Whether it's Alvin or Lydia, we appreciate you chiming in. And Dawn, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy woman, as a professional, as a wife, as a grandma, and there's a lot going on there. So before we close here, is there anything else on your mind, on your heart, anything at all you want to share with our community before we break?
I just want to say how grateful I am to the community for accepting us and supporting us and voting us the best notary in the parish. But just thank you for everybody for just continuing to come support us, because we support local businesses as well. That's a big thing for us, is we support each other to stay in business. So just thank you to our whole community for the support of Tula Title, and thank you for letting me have my 45 minutes of fame.
No, look, it's my pleasure. I've loved getting to know you a little better, and and I'll share a comment here. You're getting even more as we close. Great job, cuz your cousin, presumably Robert, sent this to you. But yeah, you have done a great job in this interview. Just your pleasure to talk to. I could stay here for another 45 minutes if my wife and kids wouldn't kill me, and if your much bigger, stronger, tougher looking husband than I am wouldn't crash through the door and tell me to get going, because I promised I'd get you out on time. Final comment here. Ronnie Michelle says that they moved to Ponchatoula in 2020 and you were the welcome wagon for them, and he gives you thanks. So Ronnie, I appreciate you sharing that. This sounds like a woman who would get up out of bed with a smile to welcome anybody anytime into our community, and we need that. So Dawn, thank you once again for your time. To our many viewers, thank you for watching. To the folks who shared a comment, I really appreciate that. That kind of adds a spice to the show that always makes it more fun to get through. So to everybody else, we'll see you around next time. Thank you.
Thanks,
all
Parker.
so much. You're welcome. Bye-bye.